we need to talk about the next few days because this is a big week, guys. We may finally, as a country, have a budget on Wednesday, and Cupcake, aka President Ramaphosa, is in America for meetings with Donald Trump. And they will definitely be talking about the refugees, because I'm sure you saw last week, but the great tech finally began and the voetsekkers have landed in America. The plane of Afrikaners, which we have decided to call Air Force One, touched down to a warm MAGA welcome last week. And in the last few days, we have finally learned about a few of the refugees who have fled South Africa. And can I just say, the world has never seen refugees like our refugees. Take Charles. Charles had a 5-bedroom house and a mining company in South Africa. You know, the way refugees have 5-bedroom houses and a mining company with a quarry in South... Isn't a 5-bedroom house by definition a mansion? I think at 5 it's probably a mansion. Charles also left behind his car, his dog, and his mom. Yes, Charles left behind his mother in a genocide. Charles is also a bigot. At the very least, he's an anti-Semite and an Islamophobe. A few years ago, he posted vile, sweeping, stereotypical statements about Jews on the internet, and he also posted clapping hand emojis in response to a post about assaulting Muslims. Now, he defended himself by saying that he was on very heavy medication at the time, specifically morphine, because, you know, medication makes you racist. By the way, if medication genuinely made you racist, couldn't we just create meds that would stop you from being racist? That would be great. But, you know, let's hear him out. We all know that when somebody takes morphine, they suddenly become a hateful bigot. This is well documented. Charles also says that land expropriation in South Africa has gone too far and your land becomes worthless. Clearly, this news has not yet gone to Sandton or Camps Bay. I can't wait for Charles to find out that America has basically the same expropriation laws that South Africa does. They just call it eminent domain. But maybe the silliest part of all, and I don't know if anybody in the live studio audience here speaks Afrikaans or takes it in school, but you might be amused to know that Charles, who walked away from a quality of life better than the vast majority of South Africans could ever dream of having, including a 5-bedroom house. Do you know what Charles' surname is? It's Kleinhouse. That is actually his surname on his ID in real life. And I cannot look, I just can't get over this story, but I truly can't get over the fact that he left his mother behind, guys. You are claiming it's so dangerous, Mzansi, that you are a refugee and you have to leave your mom behind with the dog? Do you think she knew he was leaving? Or he was like, sorry, I'm just going to Kruger for a few days. Could you please feed Fluffy while I'm away? Or Fluffles, I don't know, he's Afrikaans. What do Afrikaans people call dogs? Bliksem? Something like that. Wow, that really struck a chord, okay. Now, some people are defending Charles by saying that you can be wealthy and still be in danger of serious persecution, like rich Ukrainians who fled the Russian invasion. And to that I say, duh, obviously, we all know that, but that is not this situation. And I'm so sick of repeating this by now, but the true facts reality of South Africa is that 1, we have a crime-ravaged country. 2, the people most affected by crime are poor people and black South Africans. 3, farmers do suffer crime like everybody else, but not a disproportionate amount relative to the crimes committed across South African life. And 4, once again, there is no evidence whatsoever of a white genocide in South Africa. Of course, farmers have been killed, and each death is a tragedy. But all kinds of South Africans get murdered each year in far greater numbers. And again, it is much, much, much more dangerous to be poor or black or brown in South Africa than it is to be rich or white or have a 5-bedroom mansion like at the Klein houses. So, those are the facts. So then some defenders of the refugees go, well, South Africa is such a crime-riddled place. Why are people mad at these refugees for leaving for a safer life in a safer country? And to that we say, this isn't about that. We're not mad that they left for a safer life. It's about the fact that they spread a lie, a damaging lie about South Africa and have now benefited from that lie. That's why South Africa has said good second, good riddance to these refugees. And now We have interviews from a few of them, and it's confirmed to us how ridiculous they are. And then there's another refugee who did an interview. His name is Errol. He's another refugee who claims to be an Afrikaner, even though nobody in his family has spoken Afrikaans in 2 generations. He has not ever participated in Afrikaner culture or identity. His family hasn't in generations. And he claimed that he once tried farming, but a month ago was running a failing IT company out of his house, according to a neighbor. For all we know, Errol fled, but only fled his own terrible entrepreneurship skills. You know what Errol said? You know what Errol said when asked in an interview about white South Africans who were critical of refugees? This man, this is totally true, this man, he said, quote, "Haters are gonna hate, but you know what? As infuriating as this whole situation is, I low-key think that the last week has actually been brilliant for South Africa's international reputation, because Americans have now woken up to this nonsense, right? This whole year, Trump's government has been spewing lies about us, and most Americans didn't really pay attention or check South Africa out for themselves. But last week, when Americans saw these white blessed refugees, they got involved. Many of them were stunned that Donald Trump, also known in this country as the demented Nazi, has stopped oh, what, you're defending him? Too soon for the demented Nazi? Settle down. Many of the Americans were stunned that the demented Nazi has stopped basically all refugee programs for black and brown people fleeing genuine disasters, and yet they fast-tracked these Afrikaners. So many Americans did some digging and found out the truth about South Africa and put the truth all over mainstream media and social media. And look, I just want to say, I don't support fat shaming. I really don't. Body positivity is the way, and beauty standards that say that thin is pretty are harmful and wrong. So I just want to say, I don't condone fat shaming. But the Americans have been commenting on the refugees' bellies, their bulges, their boops, their girth, their sheer mass. And it's very, very good. Look at this.
When I first laid eyes on these South Africans coming over here, I said, wait a minute. I ain't never seen an obese South African before. When white America get through with these refugees, I hope somebody tell these people that America gonna turn them every which way but loose.
And now Americans are pointing out that the Trump government has been trawling through the social media of foreign students on university study visas to see if they've posted anything pro-Palestine. And if they find anything, they claim the students are anti-Semitic and have them deported and detained, some of them too. And yet, they selected Charles with his anti-Semitic posts to go to America. They put him on the first flight of Air Force One. The double standard is insane, and it's got a lot of Americans mad. But all this attention, I would argue, has actually been great for South Africa. Our reputation in the States is being restored by the idiocy of this Afrikaner refugees program. And it may be really helpful for Cupcake, President Ramaphosa, as he meets the Dom Dorito this week, to know that he doesn't have to do the work of getting the truth about South Africa out to the American media. That's already been done. He can just focus on working with President Boss Baby and try to get him sorted on what's actually going on. Okay, I just want to say, though, spare a thought for DA leader John Steenhuisen, because hilariously, Ramaphosa is taking him along in the delegation because Steenhuisen is agriculture minister. Steenhuisen famously is incredibly white. But also, I think he's being taken to piss off the MAGA Americans, because Steenhuisen, who I'll remind you is incredibly white, is going to have to rock up and tell them to their faces that they're wrong about what is going on in South Africa. A white man is going to tell them that South Africa is actually pretty chill for white men. Can you imagine, in a few days' time, if John Steenhuisen ends up on Fox News? Poor old John Vulligate is going to be called... Do y'all remember that video? Poor old John Vulligate is going to be called a race traitor by Fox News. Yeah, our Cupcake is a sneaky operator, guys. This is going to be a wild week, so strap in.